At the heart of the Nigerian kidnappings is the right to education. Boko Haram, the terrorist group whose name loosely is translated as Western education is a sin, has claimed responsibility for the kidnappings. Former British Prime Minister Gordon Brown is a UN Special Envoy for Global Education and joins me now from Abuja in Nigeria's capital, where he's attending the World Economic Forum and where Mr. Brown has just announced today a new Safe Schools initiative to protect the right to education. Welcome. Thank you so very much. Tell me first about the Safe School initiative and how you think that this will help girls around the world, all children around the world.
Well, Andrea, this is every family's nightmare. The nightmare that your child can be snatched from your school and taken into a forest area and you may never see them again. And there are more than 200 mothers and fathers who don't know whether their children are sex slaves, they don't know whether they've been trafficked into other countries in Africa, and perhaps some of them not even alive. And that's why we've got to do two things. We've got to give all the support that we can immediately for surveillance and satellite surveillance in particular to see whether we can locate these girls. And I'm grateful to John Kerry, the Secretary of State, for offering that facility to the country. But also we've got to ensure that girls particularly can go to school without the fear that they're going to be kidnapped or ambushed or abducted. And that's why the business community in Nigeria with us today have announced that they want to support an initiative that will make schools safer, provide for guards at schools, provide for better equipment that would allow people to monitor what's going on in the school area. And therefore, these two things must go hand in hand. We've got to try and rescue these tragically lost girls. And that slogan that the parents have chosen, "Bring back our girls," is now heard in every corner of the world now. But we've also got to make sure that for the millions of children who go to school, there is less fear attached to something that we normally take for granted.
I am told that these schools have been closed, not only the school where the girls were attending, but that all the schools in the region have been closed because of fear of the terrorists. So has Boko Haram won its evil purpose in denying an education to the children of this region?
No, I don't think so. I think they've brought to a head in Nigeria the damage and the turmoil and the terror that can be created. And I think the whole of the the Nigerian population is determined to stand up for these girls and their rights. And I think that Boko Haram has exposed itself with this heinous crime. And we know that 9 children were taken from the schools only 2 days ago. We know also that about 150 people were massacred in the north of Nigeria in the last few days. And I think the population of Nigeria and the government of Nigeria is aware that this cannot be allowed to continue. There is a huge public outcry, and it's not just across parents and children, it's across the whole of the population. And people now want to say that we can assure girls and boys that education will be safe. They also want to get these girls back as quickly as possible.
Why did it take so long? When I kept pushing on the State Department and my colleagues pushing on the White House and the Pentagon, we were told that the Nigerians were reluctant to accept the help, that there was an embarrassment, perhaps looking forward to the economic forum that's opening today, not wanting to admit that it needed Western help. Is this a cultural problem, or was there a political problem there?
Well, I've been pressing also for action for 3 weeks, and I've always thought that the technology that is necessary to locate the girls is something that only America and Britain and some of the other countries of the West could contribute to make this happen. But I think we've got to also recognize that this has been a very confused picture for many, many days. A lot of people did not know what had happened. This is a very remote area. Some of the girls escaped but didn't want to talk about what happened for fear of reprisals. And I think the information that has been available to us has come only relatively late. But now I think the crucial thing is, with the resources America has now made available, and I do congratulate President Obama and Secretary of State Kerry for taking this action, with Britain now supporting it, teams coming to Nigeria. Let us see as quickly as possible if we can locate these girls, because it is a big group of 270. If they have not yet been dispersed, let us see what we can do to not only locate them, but bring them back to safety. And I think the Nigerian population, but of course the whole of the world, is wanting to know that everything possible is now being done for the safety of these girls.
I know that you have been very deeply involved in your role as the UN envoy in protecting Malala, in making sure that she got the care she needed, and she is doing interviews today with us and others of the networks. This is a bigger problem than just Boko Haram, isn't it? It's a global problem, a problem that's rearing its ugly head in Afghanistan as U.S. and NATO troops withdraw. That girls' education is at risk.
There is discrimination against girls in so many countries of the world, and this is a civil rights struggle of our times. It is on a parallel with the struggle that was fought by black people in the United States of America for their civil rights. Girls are fighting for their rights. Some extreme versions of religion are trying to say that girls should never go to school. Parents are encouraged to put them into domestic service, early child marriage, and all these things. We have got to get the message across that girls now themselves recognize, hearing what's happening in the rest of the world, that they must themselves have the right to education. I was in Pakistan only a few weeks ago, and I heard 2,000 girls who came to hear us talk about these issues, demanding their right to education, and they are no longer going to be cowed into submission. They're no longer going to say, if someone else decides for us, we'll let it happen. These girls are now demanding their rights, and it's the duty of the world to support them. And that is true in Nigeria, it's true in Pakistan, it's true in Afghanistan, it's true in Yemen, it's true in other parts of Africa, and of course it is true in India too, where there is too much early child marriage, preventing girls having the potential that they have realized through education.
Gordon Brown, thank you so much for your advocacy on this and for what Sarah Brown is doing as well. Thank you for joining us here today. And more coming up, more ahead, right here on Andrea Mitchell Reports. Stay with us only on MSNBC.